Hey guys, so we are working on Springboard again this week. We are going to be doing Unit 4. This is Activity 4. So make sure you are logging into Springboard so you can see these lessons. I do have these lessons available on Schoology, but it's better if you actually log in and access them directly. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright guys, so we are working off of Unit 4.4 in Springboard. Here it is. So we're really talking about justice and culture. So what we think about justice and what we feel is just and not really depends on the culture. So we're bringing back that culture idea. So you will need something to write with and a pen. So feel free to pause if you need to go grab those. Okay. And as we're doing the quick writes, you can pause in between. I'm not going to, of course, do too many pauses or else the video will be extremely long, but feel free to pause anytime I pause so you can work on your writing. But please don't spend more than 5 minutes on each of these quick writes, okay? So let's start with our first one. Our first one reads, imagine that you, an American teenager, went out one night with some friends and vandalized a car and street signs. Imagine then that you were arrested by the police. What would you expect your punishment to be? Would it involve jail time, repairing the damage, or some other penalty? How do you think justice would be best be served? So I'll give you guys a few minutes, no more than 5 minutes. So I'm going to pretend to press pause on mine. Boop. Go ahead, pause. Still pausing. Still pausing if you need it. All right. So question 2. What is the attitude towards the vandalism of this nature in your family? If you were to actually go out there and vandalize, now I'm saying don't, please don't, but if you were to, what would the attitude of your family feel? What would they feel about it? What about in your school? What's the attitude towards that? What about in your community? So take some time to think about you and your culture and your values. Okay, ready? Pause. You ready? Are you done? Looks like you got a sentence. I need a paragraph. I'll give you a minute or two. All right. Boop. All right, last quick write. Now, they talk about in Unit 3. Now, we did not do the Unit 3 because it was a novel that we did not have. But the question we can still use. So let's look at the second part where the question is. What would you think might be the response to this kind of vandalism in another country? So we talked about you and your school and your community of this type of vandalism. What would their responses be? How did they believe? Now pretend you were in another country. It can be any country, okay? Anything that comes in your head. What would the response be to this kind of vandalism? Okay? So I'll give you guys a few minutes to write your quick write. Ready? Boop. Make it a good one. Yeah, don't give me a sentence. Tell me why. And unpause. Okay? She should have at least 3 paragraphs ready done for the quick writes. So we are going to be revisiting these quick writes, so keep that in mind as we go forward. Don't put them away. Hang on to them, okay? So we're going to be talking a little bit about Michael Fay. So I'm not sure if you guys know about Michael Fay. He was an American teenager living in Singapore. Now Singapore is really well known for their harsh government and harsh punishments. You can't even chew gum in Singapore. So keep that in mind as we're reading this. This is going to give you background information about the Michael Fay controversy. And I'll give you guys a few minutes. So we're going to do the little pausey thing so you guys can read. Whoop. Okay, we're back. So we have the Michael K. controversy, and as you can probably tell, being caned was not something that he probably even expected, because in America we don't have that kind of punishment. It's seen as torture. So with that in mind and how this whole thing unfolded, people were actually even celebrated it in his family. While some people were like, no, that's bad, you shouldn't do that at all. So what we're going to be looking for is his punishment justified, okay? Or was it not justified? Is this cane a proper justice tool for vandalizing objects, okay? So as we're looking through these articles that we're going to be reading, we're going to be looking for types of evidence, okay? So we have empirical evidence, logical evidence, and anecdotal. And I know you guys have seen this before, but we're going to go back and we're going to go to differentiate different types of evidence. So this is something I think you guys, I remember doing it with you guys. The link is still in Schoology if you want to see it and do it with me, but it's here for you. So different types of evidence. We have logical evidence. This is logical thinking. Okay, they follow reasoning and facts. They take what we know of facts and what we know of life, and we make a logical argument, okay? So they're not going to deal with emotions or anything. It's just what they sound as sound reasoning, okay? So we have this little thing. I'll let you guys go ahead and do this on your own as you see fit. I'm just going to do an overview for the video. Empirical evidence. This is based on scientific research. So this one is more based on research and studies. So somebody had a logical argument, but they sought out to go prove it, okay? So they use research studies, trials, errors to support their evidence. This is something we see a lot in research essays. We use more empirical evidence because it is stronger because we have studies to back it up. Okay. And the last one is anecdotal. Okay, anecdotal evidence is based on personal experience and personal beliefs. Okay, so they use this one about Loch Ness Monster. So sightings based on what they believe. We don't have any scientific evidence to prove the Loch Ness Monster exists. We just have anecdotal, what people said they saw. So this is more about a person's experience, what person saw, felt, whatnot, okay? This is not necessarily, this can't be really checked by science. It's just based on you, on what you feel and what you think. And that is the three types of evidence. And we're going to be looking for these three types of evidence in our article that we're going to be reading. So directions, really quick, you're going to skim the following two articles, okay? You're going to skim and then read. Skim the two following articles from the New York Times and determine whether each writer is a proponent of Bay's punishment or is it opposed to the punishment. Is it for? Yes, I believe in it. Or no. Okay. Mark the text. Of course, you can't do that, but we can actually write on our piece of paper while you're taking notes, okay? Words and phrases that indicate the writer's stance. So if you see any words or phrases that show that they are for or against in each of the article, make sure you write those down because those are going to be handy as we go on. Okay? Take notes of any biases. Okay? What's a bias? A bias means that the person has some sort of affinity to one side over another. Okay? Like I have a bias to anything pro-teacher because I'm a teacher. It's already built in. Same thing with being a Latina. I've already had bias for that already because it's part of who I am and my values. So I'm always going to go for something positive for it. So keep that in mind of the reader. What is their bias? I'm sorry, of the writer, what's their bias and what do they believe? And how's that showing in these editorials? So you can do, of course, the time to as for American values. I'll give you a chance to pause. Pause. Alright. So you should have read it, skimmed it, take some notes as you guys are reading. And then we have the second one. Same thing. You're gonna scan. You're going to read it, and you're gonna look for those same words. What side are they on? Are they for this punishment that they got or against it? What's their biases here? And this one's a little longer, so really do take your time on this one. So, the article Rough Justice and the article Time to Assert American Values should be read, ready to go. So I'll go ahead and do a pause button really quick if you want to do that. All right. All right, so she had both of those articles read and ready to go. So what we're going to do in the next video is we're going to go back into our quick writes and revise them a little bit, okay? So hang on for the next one.